Welcome to Shore Solutions, the podcast, and I'm your host, Jay Shore, CEO and founder of Shore Solutions. We are a team of national and award-winning practice management consultants with experience running a multi-million-dollar cosmetic dermatology and plastic surgery practice. We're here to share strategies and insights that will help you grow your practice efficiently and profitably. In each episode, we'll explore the steps and actionable insights to guide you through your journey to increase efficiency, boost revenue, and decrease costs. Tune in and discover how to improve your patient experience and take your aesthetic practice to the next level.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Shore Solutions, the podcast. My name is Paige Hamilton. I'm the marketing and advertising manager here at Shore Solutions. And today I am hosting this episode, and I have Christian DeVoe as my guest today. He is one of our partners here at Shore Solutions and also our senior client success manager. So welcome to the podcast, Christian.
Thank you, Paige. I'm really happy to be here with you today.
All right. So today is going to be a very fun episode. It's the second episode in a series that we're doing called Inside Shore Solutions. So the next few episodes will give you an inside look at the people inside our business. We want to share with you who we are, whether you're a loyal podcast listener, if you're starting the search as to wanting a practice management team, or if you're one of our current or past clients as well. Our goal with this series is to give you the chance to know our team on a deeper level, our journeys, our philosophies, our stories, and all the lessons that we've learned up until this point in our careers. So our last episode was a look inside of our CEO and founder, Jay Shore's story. And so if you haven't seen that one, go check it out after you're done listening to this one, because I think this is going to be a really good episode as well. Today is going to be all about Christian and his story. So Christian, I want you to start this off by telling us what you currently do at Shore Solutions. Before we get into your history and your backstory, can you just tell us about what you do now and what your day-to-day looks like?
Absolutely. Thank you, Paige. That was a great introduction. So I guess right now what I mostly do is work with clients. That's my main job. So I help clients when it comes to financials. So I help them review P&Ls, take a look at, revenues, expenses, and what's the bottom line. I also help them with training for phone skills and sales training. And those are like my main two things that I do with clients. I also help every so often with HR. And internally, I also help manage our marketing team. And I also help with other internal things like keeping up with Monday.com, which is our project management tool to make sure that everything is on target with the things that we're working on for clients. So I do a little bit of everything, basically.
Yeah, that's one of the perks of being on a small team, right? We just always get pulled into different projects that we want to work on.
That's right.
So can you tell us what's your favorite part about working with clients?
Well, I guess my favorite thing would be to see them develop and grow and ultimately become successful. That's like my main thing. And just seeing them starting to understand their business, starting to see how they're saving money because of the investment that they made in our services, that makes me feel really, really good. Just to know that whatever they invested in us is giving them returns. To me, that's just very fulfilling. And most importantly, being able to build those relationships with them and to hear about their lives and to hear about, how sometimes they go through difficult challenges and being able to be there for them. I think for me, it's very rewarding. And I love being able to be part of that journey and to see them become the best versions of themselves and take their businesses to the next level.
And building all the Excel spreadsheets, right?
Yeah.
All right. You have a really fun start with Shore Solutions, and it's a really interesting story. So I want you to be able to share that. But just to give a little introduction, you started as an intern and now here you are doing this podcast with me as a partner. So that is definitely a huge jump from intern to now partner at the company. So I want you to share what that experience is like and how it shaped the way you approach your work today.
Yeah, it was definitely not the typical internship story. It was a little bit different. I'm going to have to think back on those days 3 years ago when at that time I was working as a supervisor at a call center, and I was managing a team of medical interpreters, and I loved what I was doing. And I remember at the time I was trying to continue to be promoted. I started there as an interpreter myself, and then I was able to get to become a supervisor. And my plan was to continue to get promoted until becoming a project manager and continuing to grow within that organization. However, when I applied for that next position, I went through all the different filters. When I got to the last one, I didn't make it to that job. So in my mind, I thought if it wasn't for me, it was for a reason, and maybe there was something better in store for me. So I started kind of being open to other opportunities, and that's when I saw this announcement about a conference. It was for the INCAS conference, the International Master Course on Aging Science Congress. And I was very excited about that opportunity because they were looking for just people to work over the weekend. They were looking for bilingual people who could speak English and Spanish. And I applied and they said yes. And I went over there. It was 3 days conference. The first day I remember being there, I was scanning badges. That was my job. And I was assigned to a specific room. And so that first day I was, doing this all day. I was standing on my feet, and I remember going home after the first day and telling my wife, I don't think I'm going to go tomorrow because I'm in so much pain right now. My legs were just super swollen and tired for the whole day, just standing up. And I remember my wife told me, you should go tomorrow and keep an open mind. Maybe tomorrow is when you're going to meet someone who, might change your life. Who knows? And I remember just thinking, okay, I'll listen to you. I'll go tomorrow again. And so I did. And this time I was actually looking around, seeing if I could, meet someone. And I remember seeing this older gentleman, and he was trying to speak to some people at a booth, and they couldn't speak English. So he was struggling to communicate with them. And I just stepped in and I said, hey, can I help you? Can I translate for you? And then he said, yes, please. And I helped him out. He thanked me, and then he went away. Later that same day, he came back, and this time around, he was wearing a suit and he had a badge on. And I realized that he was a speaker. And the name of the speaker was Jay Shore. And I remember seeing what his lecture was about. And I asked him, hey, I see that you're going to be talking about how to open, how to grow, and how to sell a business. And basically from A to Z, can you give me some advice for a young man who wants to be an entrepreneur? What would you say if it was you? Like, if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice when you were my age, what would you say? And he told me, well, there are 2 things. Number one, you need to find the business that you want to do and work for someone who is already doing it. You start from the ground and then you make your way up and learn the different aspects of that business. Because many people go out there and they try to start a business, but they have no idea, they have no knowledge of how to open that business or what is required to run that business. So that was his first advice. And then he said to me, second thing that you should do is, if you can, get an internship with someone. And that way you can get a chance to get education without having to pay for it. Because right now you're going to college, which I was, but you have to pay for your education. If you do an internship, if it is unpaid, well, they're not going to pay you with money, but they're going to pay you with experience and knowledge and the opportunity to potentially even stay at that company and do what I told you on my first advice. So I listened to him and I said, well, that's great advice. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And that was it. The third day, he comes back and he has another lecture, and this time he comes with his wife, and her name is Pat. And Pat told me, hey, I spoke to Jay. He told me about you, and he would be more than happy to mentor you. And that was the beginning of a life-changing experience for me. I called him the next day and I said, hey, can we meet? And from then on, he started mentoring me on my personal side. I was about to become a dad at the time. So he gave me a lot of advice on what to expect with that and how to be a good husband and all that good stuff. And he also said to me, are you interested in maybe doing an internship with us? And that's where I started. That was the beginning of my journey as a marketing intern. And then
the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. That's right.
Yeah, it's such a great story. I feel like every time you tell it, sometimes you add in more details, and it just goes to show that you never know who you're going to meet and the different opportunities that you get. Like you mentioned, that one wasn't meant to be, and now you have to look for new opportunities. And had you not taken your wife's advice and gone for that second day, then you never would have met Jay, and then who knows what would have happened with this company. And obviously, I'm sure we would all still be here, but, certain things just play out the way that they're supposed to.
That's right. 100%.
Yeah. So during your internship and your mentorship, and then you started shadowing Jay and being in all of his meetings and learning all the ropes, and that's the history that we're talking about. But how did that whole process and being under the direct mentorship of Jay change your mindset of how you worked, and what kinds of things do you still apply to what you do now?
One of the very first things that I learned from Jay in regards to the aesthetic practices and this line of business is you got to treat it like the business that it is. That was the first line I memorized. And I memorized a lot of Jay isms over the years. And that was the first one I learned. Because as an employee, I had this whole perspective. Working for other companies before, I was always looking at it from my perspective as an employee. What can I get? What are my benefits? By working with Jay, I started to see the perspective of a CEO, of the actual owner. And I realized, well, you cannot pay your employees if you don't make any money. So something as simple as an employee wanting a raise, but your company is not making any more money. How do you deal with those situations? And now you have this whole complex world of HR and having to resolve the different problems with your people, trying to make them happy, keep them happy, while still understanding that there are certain limitations. So that was one of the things I started to realize. I started to think more like an owner as opposed to an employee. And the second thing I learned from Jay was definitely believing in myself. I realized that I knew more than I thought that I knew. And the moment I realized that is when I started to see, business owners or practice owners come to me asking questions that for me were like, yeah, this is an easy answer. That's simple. This is what you need to do. But that's when I realized that the reason why I knew that was because I have been shadowing Jay for all these years, listening to him, listening to his experiences, listening to the things that he was teaching the clients and learning from him. And not everybody has that opportunity. So for me to realize that was life-changing because I started believing more in myself and realizing that I can help the client. And once I did that, I was able to start taking on some of my own clients, helping them. And something that is very unique about our team is that we all specialize in different things. So if there was something I didn't know, I didn't have to worry about, I don't know the answer to that question, but I would be like, well, that's a Jay question. Let me, discuss it with Jay and I'll come back to you with the answer. It wasn't, I don't know anymore. It was more, let me find out. And it's no different with business owners out there. When you start a practice, it's going to be a process of learning. And something that you need to know is that if you haven't had a practice before, which you probably haven't, you need to find someone that will be like a mentor. In other words, you need to find yourself either a consultant or just some business or person that will help you and lead you so that you don't make the same mistakes that they made. So that's why a consultant is so important for our clients and for you, for those of you listening out there, and being able to have that kind of mentorship in your life. That's very, very important to be successful.
And I know something that you've said a lot as well, and something that Jay values too, is there's not really a cap that you can reach that once you're at a certain level, you've realized, I know everything. Because even all of us, we're still learning, and every day we learn something. You can't ever feel like you've mastered something in the entirety. And I think that's something that Jay has always expressed through his love of teaching is you can never stop learning. There's always something else that you don't know.
Right. And I love that you say that because I'm still learning every single day. And sometimes I am in a meeting with a client and Jay's explaining for the 11th time, because I maybe have been in many other meetings where we have talked about it, and I learn new things. Even though he has explained it many times before, maybe this time I was able to pick up something I didn't pick up on before. So you can always learn, and it's keeping that open mindset of you can learn from anyone. It doesn't matter, their age or their status. As long as you have an open mind, you can learn anything from anyone.
Let's take a quick break. I want to tell you about our Conversion Cascade 2.0 online course. In just a few hours, you and your team will learn how to attract more patients, convert more consults, and turn new leads into loyal patients, all at your own pace. Along with lifetime access, you'll receive downloadable tools such as phone scripts, marketing checklists, and conversion tracking tools to help improve your sales and customer service skills. And as a special thank you for being a podcast listener, use code PODCAST to get 20% off. Click the link in the show notes to sign up today.
Okay, so this is kind of a good little segue to your growth and some of your milestones. So tying this into education and still learning is that you're working on finishing your degree and you are able to manage doing that and being a full-time team member here at the company and also being a father. So how do you manage it all? How do you keep yourself motivated to balance all those things despite being pulled different directions?
That's always the question, right? How do you do it all? I believe we can do it all, but you cannot do it at the same time. And that's why you have to have priorities. And to me, what has worked is if I'm at work right now, I'm at work right now. Like I'm not with the baby, even though I love my son and sometimes he will come into the office and, march in. That happens. But I'm in the meeting and he has to understand and he will understand over time that this is the time when daddy is working. This is my work time and I have to focus on what I'm doing here. After I finish work, I spend time with my son. So that's daddy time. That's when I'm there for him. I play with him. I take him out. That's our time. Then after he goes to bed, now I go back to my office and I start studying. That's when I do my homework and I'm almost done with my degree. And to me, that's very important because the things that I'm learning, often enough, I find to be very helpful with the things that I do with my clients because I'm studying a business major. So for me, that's very helpful. It keeps things fresh in my mind. And I believe that even after I finish my degree, I will probably continue taking classes just so that I continue to learn and grow. Part of what you were saying earlier, we always have to be learning. So I always try to prioritize. That's number one. And then when things don't happen as they should, which that's life happens. My son might get sick. Now that's the priority. So being able to understand that as long as you understand your priorities and know what's most important to you, you can do it all. But you have to be able to understand that saying yes to something now will be saying no to something else. And to me, what's most important before anything else is making sure that my health, both mental and spiritual and physical, it's right before I can help others. It's like when you're on a plane, right? And they tell you, before you help others with their mask, if there is like an altitude issue and the oxygen mask come down, you first have to put yours on and then you can help others. That's number one rule. I feel the same way, and that's why the first thing I do when I wake up, I do my meditation, I do my prayer, and then I do exercise because that to me is very important and is the foundation of everything else. And if you don't get those big building blocks at the bottom of your day, it's going to be very difficult to put all the other different things. So being able to understand that, it's very important to me.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice for everyone who, just having some sort of structure and finding what works for you and knowing that, like you said, your priorities have to change and you have to be okay with that and not necessarily go with the flow and ruin your structure, but just reprioritize and keep going. So with that, what kinds of things do you like to do to recharge, keep yourself from getting burnt out if you have a stressful day or, things don't go as you planned?
I mean, that's a great question because sometimes I don't have time for other hobbies. Most of the time, I don't have time for a lot of other hobbies. Exercise is great for me. I think that's the one thing that I keep doing consistently that I always come back to. It's a way for me to just not think about anything else, just focus on in that moment and go all out. And sometimes it can be a way to even get rid of stress. And that's the way that I do it. And then, of course, on the spiritual side, I do my prayer and scripture reading. That's how I also try to recharge and connect with something greater than myself. And it doesn't matter what your religion is or what you believe in. Having that time to just meditate, ponder, pray, it really helps you focus on the things that really matter. So that to me is like my biggest thing, I would say, even bigger than exercise. And then the other thing that I enjoy doing is just going out with my family, just taking the kid out and going to the park, getting some fresh air. That to me is another way that I recharge. And I tell my wife, sometimes I wish I could do a midday walk to the park. I feel like it just recharges me. And that way when I come home, I can get everything else that I need to get done. But those are the main things I will say for me.
Yeah, I think it's important for business owners and practice owners to know that it's a hard balance that as a business owner, it comes home with you. And I think still having those boundaries and being able to set those boundaries so you don't get burned out is important. But there also has to be that balance and you have to going back to like the priorities of knowing this is your business and you need the money, but also you do need to have a life and have the fun too, because otherwise you're going to get burnt out. And then you're not going to be motivated to keep going, or you're going to start disliking work and things like that. So you just have to enjoy the simplicity of life sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And I would say the messiness of life as well. Because sometimes, especially if you're going to open a practice, at the very beginning, it's going to be very difficult to be an entrepreneur and do everything that you need to do as a business owner and maintain all these different things that we call balance. Sometimes life gets imbalanced, and that's just for a little season. And understanding that those are seasons that will pass. But I would say understanding that sometimes you might not have time to exercise. You won't have time to do certain things, and that's okay. And not to beat yourself up for it. There is no such thing as balance when you're trying to build a business. But once you're up and running, now you can start to have a little bit more balance. And then, of course, once you set up your business correctly so that it can run without you, that's when you really start getting more free time and being able to enjoy the things that you like.
Okay, so let's pivot a little bit because I want to talk about a major milestone that we've kind of already touched on a little bit. But at the beginning of this year, you became partner with Shore Solutions. That is a huge milestone and definitely a turning point in your career and now where you're at. So can you take us back to that moment when Jay told you that you were going to be made partner and kind of what you were feeling in that moment?
Just a deep sense of gratitude. One of the things that Jay told me when he started mentoring me, he made me make a promise. He said to me, I'll do this for you, Christian, but I want you to promise me that one day you'll do it for someone else. And I said, yes, of course. I'll pay it forward like you're doing now. I appreciate it, of course. And then he said to me, I'm going to make you a very rich man, which I thought was kind of funny. But he basically promised me that, he was going to be there every step of the way. He was going to help me grow and develop myself to be my best version. And to have someone like that in your life, it's very valuable. So to me, I was just so grateful that he was actually fulfilling that promise. The moment that he made me a partner, I realized he's for real. That this is serious. That he actually means it. So to me, that makes me want to stay. That makes me want to work hard and help grow the company and help our clients stay happy. And it's just this sense of gratitude. And to me, I just want to continue giving my best. I don't think that it's ever slowing down. It's just trying to be better every step of the way. And it's just that it's all coming from that sense of, this guy's for real. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
I don't know what could be bigger than, realizing that it's all coming full circle and, your life is taking shape the way that it's meant to. So what can our listeners take away from hearing your story? And, if they're the business owner and they're thinking about bringing on a partner or promoting someone within to a partnership level, what can they take away? Or on the flip side of that as well, is what can someone who's in your shoes do to make that come to fruition as well?
Okay. So I'll start with the business owner perspective. I mean, the main thing I would want our listeners to take away from my story is you got to work hard and you got to be disciplined to be able to do everything that you want to do, but it is totally possible. And even if I could tell a little bit more of my life story, how I basically grew up in poverty and I was able to learn English basically by myself. And then, of course, worked really hard teaching English to be able to pay for an education at the time, to be able to do an English course, to graduate and then serve a 2-year volunteer service for the church that I go to. I was in England for a couple of years. All of that story as well adds up to say that my life has been one of hard work and dedication and a lot of grace. I feel like I have been very blessed in the opportunities that I have been given, but have also been able to take on those opportunities. So as a practice owner, a business owner, you got to be willing to take on the opportunity that come your way. You got to look for people that will help you get to where you want to get. So whether that's consultants or other businesses that will help you grow your business. Being able to understand that sometimes life is going to be difficult and there are going to be challenges, but you can get through them if you stay true to who you are and who you want to become. And then, of course, if you want to have a partner and have an exit strategy that includes having partnership opportunities for some of your employees or other doctors that work with you, definitely setting that up correctly so that there is an element of sweat equity where they are able to work towards getting those shares of your practice or your business. And if you think about it as a stock market, right? You buy into a company that is publicly traded. You can buy shares of that company and you have an equity or an ownership of some percentage of that company. If you think about it that way, there is private shares in your company that you can distribute, where that's giving them away as equity, as I mentioned, or you can sell them to your other partners or associates or doctors or employees. You can sell those shares to them. The one thing that I will say about that is just make sure you always have the majority of the shares. So at least 51% of your company should be owned by you, so that if your partners at any time wants to buy you out, they cannot do it unless, of course, your plan is to be bought out. That's a different story. Then, of course, you want to structure in a way where in the future they can buy you out and you can maintain a small percentage of your company, so you can have kind of like a retirement fund, if you want to call it that way, where you get paid every year a distribution of whatever the practice made. But you can structure in many different ways. What I will say is, before you get in any type of partnership, make sure you have the right person on the bus, the right people on the bus. If you don't have a good team to do this with, I would say maybe stay away from doing that and look for other ways of doing your exit strategy. And you have to think about all these different scenarios for that. But that's on the owner side. On the employee side, or someone who maybe is looking to grow in the practice, who is looking to be able to get equity in a business, where that's in the aesthetic business or any other business for that matter, the first thing you need to do is to make sure that you're an asset for that person, for that owner. Becoming an asset looks like making sure that whenever something needs to be done, you get it done before you're asked to get it done. So always looking ahead and thinking of ways that you can help the company grow and make more money. Thinking of different services and things that you can offer to make more money, to increase revenue. Thinking of ways that you can help save money for the business owner, for the doctor or nurse practitioner, or whoever is the business owner. Being able to save them money. Every dollar of an expense that you save them is going to be pure profit. So being able to help them do that is going to show value, but also understanding that you need to sell yourself. Nobody's going to know that you're doing all these different things if you don't tell them. So always bringing it up to your boss or to your leader, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and for them to see the value in you and that you are an asset to them and that you're necessary for the operation of that business. That's when you become valuable, and that's when you can come to the owner and say, "Hey, I was wondering if there is any way that I could get some equity in the company. Let's talk about equity opportunities," and you can open up that discussion.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I feel like everyone can take something away from that. And, even if your goal isn't to be a business owner or have equity or have that higher role, you can still make yourself an asset. Nobody wants to be the person who just shows up for work every day and doesn't really contribute anything to the team. So I think that was great advice on both sides, for the business owner or for the employee. So Christian, one more question that I have for you is, what do you hope your legacy will be? Either within this company specifically or just in general for your career. What do you hope that people remember about your career, and what impact do you want to have?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know that
you have such a long way to go too with your career.
Yes.
Saying that you need to know what your legacy is right now, but just in the moment, what do you hope for it to be?
And one of the biggest things that, as a young man, when I was 18, and that was the reason why I went on a mission for 2 years. And during that time, I was serving people and helping people and teaching people. It was a religious type of service. But it comes back to my main purpose in life, which I believe is to help others. And I believe in giving. And to be able to give more, I need to become more. So that's why I always try to get to that next level and to learn that next thing and to be always progressing so that I can give back. So that's why when Jay asked me, "Hey, I will do this for you as long as you want to give back," I'm like, I already planning on that. So the fact that you're helping me is going to help me get there. And of course I will give back. That's my goal. That's my purpose in life. So I would say I want to be remembered as somebody who always helped others and who tried to make a difference in the lives of others, and, change the world one person at a time. I don't think I can change the whole world, but I can change one world, and every person is a world. So I can change many worlds, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. And I've loved everything you've shared throughout this whole episode. You have a great story, and I hope that all of our listeners, you're able to take something away from Christian and his growth and everything that he's been through and all the advice that he's gotten. And if you're young, find a mentor, or if you're in the position where you have all this experience, find a younger person to mentor, because it really does make a world of difference. Everyone needs support, and having that support system. So definitely a lot of great advice. You should listen to this episode again if you need to. And then, like we mentioned, go check out Jay's episode, because he talked a lot about mentorship as well. And Christian actually interviewed him. So that was a great episode, to listen to. So Christian, thank you for being a guest on this episode once again. Thank you to everyone who stayed till the end and listened to this podcast. We'll see you in the next episode here on Shore Solutions, the podcast.
Don't go anywhere just yet. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the latest insights. New episodes are released every 2 weeks. For more valuable information and resources to elevate your practice, sign up for our e-newsletter. You'll get the latest industry updates, expert tips, and exclusive strategies straight to your inbox. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media at Shore Solutions. If you're ready to take your practice to the next level, schedule a free consult with our team today. Thank you for joining us on Shore Solutions, the podcast.